you must not underestimate change management. About 50-55% of resistance stems from poor employee enablement.
Have a small scale pilot based projects where you can demonstrate the benefits to the organization and to your customers of using AI and digital workflows. If that succeeds, people will be ready to invest time, money, and also their efforts.
If you have a kind of a reverse mentoring, okay, from Gen Z to a senior employee, so that also sometimes helps to bring out the innovation. So if you allow them to reverse mentor the senior employees or leaders, then definitely that will now bring out a different kind of innovation and creativity from the Gen Z, and that will overall help the company.
You're watching W.Media Deep Dive, our exclusive video podcast series where we take a closer look at the cloud and data center industry and connectivity ecosystem across South Asia and the Middle East. I'm your host, Deborah, Editor-in-Chief at W.Media, and today we will take a deep dive into the impact of culture, artificial intelligence, and strategic goals in driving digital transformation. Joining me today for this exciting discussion are our special guests, Poonam Masand, Director, Data Tech AI Consulting, Digital Transformation, GBS, and Change Advisory, Genpact; Srinivasan Balraj, Vice President, National Head of Information Security, Audit and Compliance, Muthoot Fincorp Limited; and Biren, Director, CRISIL Limited. Welcome to W.Media Deep Dive. How are we doing today?
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you for inviting us to be a part of this podcast, and love to be here.
Wonderful. Why don't we start by all of you taking, say, 2 minutes each to tell us a little bit about your professional journey and also a little bit about your organization.
Okay, so I have almost about 20 years plus of experience within the industry. I started off my journey. I have a background in finance. I'm a cost accountant and an MBA. And I have, over the years, I've moved to tech, digital transformation, and I started my journey with operations. I was working with American Express, and I spent a couple years there. I worked in Emphasis, and I worked in a few consulting companies, and then joined Genpact, where also I've had different roles, and I am now a part of the consulting advisory teams there, and we work a lot with global companies who want to transform their journeys, their experiences, and also set up uh, GCCs or outsource their activities as well. So uh, I mean, this is it for me. On the home side, I have my family has. I have my husband who's also in a part of the IT industry, is in the product sales, and I have two sons. So one is an engineer, AI engineer, and one is a budding engineer as well. So that's me.
Wonderful. Biren, you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Biren Parekh, and I have my experience 2.5 decade of experience, primarily into banking software products. And being part of a banking software product industry, I'm more into digital transformation right from the beginning. And currently, I'm with CRISIL, working as a practice director for data and analytics division.
Wonderful. Srinivasan, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and your organization?
Good afternoon, everyone. So this is Srinivasan Balraj. So I come with 18 plus years of experience from the security, governance, risk and compliance background. I started myself as a security engineer, and that's where I got interest into the cybersecurity area. So I come from erstwhile using the common antivirus products to what we have as the EDR solutions now. I've seen the transition from manual antivirus to the greatest AI-based security controls currently. Also a certified professional in CISA, CDPSC, ISO 27001, and also AWS Security Architect certified. Having said that, my experience overall was with the BFSI industry, with large banks, multinational banks, US, UK-based banks, fintech companies, product-based financial services companies, and currently with Muthoot Fincorp as the head of information security, audit, and compliance. Uh, As a family, background from Chennai, I have a son who's 10 years old. Wife is into software testing, and also a Toastmaster apart from work, where I help people with communication and leadership skills. I have been a area director of the club for close to 2 years together. So that's about me. Thank you.
We do have an exciting bunch of speakers today. All right, let's dive right into the first segment, key goals for digital transformation. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know, why is it that your organization decided to embark upon this journey of digital transformation? Was it because of competition, customer expectations, regulatory shifts, or technological advancements? Moreover, how can leaders ensure that it's a proactive strategy rather than a reactive necessity?
Any organization now has to move towards and implement AI, move towards AI, and do a digital transformation within and with their clients as well. So, there are different type of pressures. So there are business pressures, which is more like competition, and you need to innovate to be ahead, to get ahead, and you need to get that latest I would say offering on the horizon, so that people are interested in you, and you continuously need to innovate and get ahead. And then there are customer expectations. So the most important thing which has come up now is the experience, the customer experience, and end-to-end experience is what the customer is looking for. I mean, long gone are the days when we used to just have cost arbitrage and labor arbitrage. It is the customer experience which is counting. What they want to do is to get ahead in the games. They also have cost pressures, and they are looking at companies, or rather the IT companies as well, to help bring it down. And there are other factors as well, and which is just not only the business pressures, but you're right, the regulatory pressures as well. So the DPDP, GDPR, they are all very important regulations which every company needs to follow. So that is another part of it. And then obviously growth, bring out new revenue streams, new products, so that you stay relevant. So that is where all the companies are looking and getting into their space. Also, apart from the business pressures, it is the operational pressures of cost reductions, and to be to have new and new technologies coming in, like Gen AI, agentic AI, edge computing, quantum computing. So all these latest technologies are where the companies are moving on to, so that they can get on to the next generation and take on from there.
See, but any organization, right? Culture is the foundation. In this current arena, digital transformation is not just a tech project, it's a people project, correct? A culture that embraces a lot of experimentation, continuous learning, adaptability, which is of paramount importance. Now we're seeing that companies that have a culture that resists change are companies that are failing to implement new technologies. You've seen many examples in the past. You can take an instance of Nokia. What happened to them, right? So it is digital transformations are often seen as a necessity. I agree that, but from my vantage point, I understand that in from my background in cybersecurity, audit, and privacy, right, the strongest triggers are blend of multiple things: regulatory shifts, evolving customer expectations, and last but not least, data protection. We mentioned about Poonam mentioning GDPR and other areas, right? Now California has a CCPA Act, when also including the AI governance framework inside that. So simultaneously, even our customers are increasingly aware about digital rights and demand transparency. It's not just organization do that. Customers are demanding that too from their side to have a control over their information in the public market. So we need to move from this reactive to proactive. Leaders must embed this transformation into their organization DNA, which means there are few important considerations. Have a risk-based approach, have a detailed governance based framework establishing what is your policies, your data handling procedures, your compliance, and build that trust onto your customer. Third is about the data governance frameworks and continuous monitoring adaptation. So implement your systems which not just configures but also monitors all your regulatory requirements and changes in the overall landscape. And nowadays we can't live without vendors, right? Should have proper strategic vendor management. So you have proper control and rigorous monitoring on your vendors. End of the day, last but not the least, your education awareness training. Keep the training interesting, right? Have a bite-sized training, gamified training. So people are in line with your organization requirements and they can take it to leaps and bounces. So I think these approaches can go a long way in terms of reactive to proactive strategy.
I'd like to bring in Biren now, and Biren, I also want you to shed a little bit of light on the frameworks and criteria you use to prioritize transformation investments, and how do you measure their success beyond financial returns? Like apart from the decision drivers, you're also looking at the returns, right, Biren?
Yeah, as Srinivasan mentioned, primarily the objective of any digital transformation is either statutory, regulatory, maybe customer experience, and maybe to bid the competitor. So these are the primary driver of it. So whenever any kind of digital transformation is going to be decided, okay, what digital transformation journey to be embarked. So primarily, one of them is that now whether it is a strategic alignment is there or not within company's vision and mission. That is one thing which is being looked into as a part of a framework. Second is that now what value it will give, what value it will create, whether it is going to reduce the risk or not, whether the complexity is matching with the company's appetite or not. Okay, so these are the 2-3 areas where as a part of framework, those will be looked upon. Again, stakeholder buy-in is very much required. Okay, so that is nowadays for any digital transformation journey, people, okay, those are the employees. No, those has to be now that buy-in has to be there. Without that, any digital transformation is not going to succeed, right? So that is a very important thing. And ultimately, I say that now regulatory compliance is the final thing which you need to ensure that whether you are meeting those compliance or not, because every country has their own laws, right? And if you are embarking on the journey and at the end of it, you realize that now you have not matched the compliance, and it's a failed project, right? So these are some of the things or framework which, I mean, one has to go through it now to figure out whether this is a right project to onboard in a digital transformation journey or not, right? So that is answer to your first question. And second one, which you mentioned that now what are the any KPIs which you measure beyond financial returns or monetary benefits? So I think there are 2-3 primary KPI which one has to look into it. One is that whether the customer centric KPIs are being met or not, or whether it is the NPS is going to improve or not. So that is one thing which definitely everyone looks into it. Again, operational efficiency is a second part now, whereby now everyone talks about the profitability or the operational efficiency, right? So that is a third thing. And ultimately, whether it's going to create a positive cultural impact or not. Okay, so those are the 2-3 areas where you will try to measure it beyond financial returns. Now, whether it is meeting your objective or not. There are many more, but yeah, these are the, in a nutshell, I can say that.
All right, Poonam, now I'd like to come to you. What, in your opinion, are the critical phases for a structured digital transformation roadmap? And how do you ensure adaptability in response to market shifts and emerging technologies? Also, Poonam, what mistakes do you think companies should avoid when plotting this journey?
So it's an interesting question. So digital transformation roadmaps, typically progress through 5 phases. So, the first one is aligning the strategy. Very importantly, you should have a strategy that is in sync with your digital investments. Modernizing your core systems, developing digital products, leveraging data and AI, and then embedding cultural change throughout the organization. And this is a very important part. And as we just heard as well from Biren, that this is, change management is very, very important, and it must permeate through each and every employee. The agility and the change management is extremely important. And this along with the innovation and cultural adoption is all these factors would lead to digital transformation in an organization. And so agility, resilience, quick decisions, and innovation are foremost and very, very important to ensure the adaptability of the organization. As far as key mistakes to avoid would be, we must not prioritize technology over outcomes. So 70% of the projects fail if you don't have clear business KPIs. So we must balance the two. So technology must be balanced with the outcomes you want to get out of getting that technology in force. You must not underestimate change management. about 50-55% of resistance stems from poor employee enablement. So more the change management is filtered through for each and every project, what you do in a particular organization, more is the success rate. You must not ignore the legacy systems compatibility as well, because legacy systems, you got to link to the legacy systems, and more the compatibility which happens, more is your success rate. Almost about 40 to 50% of integration delays happen because we ignore the legacy systems compatibility. uh, Also, you must keep on assessing your roadmaps, and what path you want to take. You must reassess priorities regularly. So maybe quarterly, maybe half yearly, so that you know that you are in the right place and the right space. So all these are very important if you want to plot your journey and if you want to have a success in your chosen path.
Wonderful. Let's now move on to a slightly more. I won't say people are polarized about this because we are constantly looking at ways to make the best of both worlds. But in the cloud versus on-prem versus hybrid debate, there are several new evolving factors: data sovereignty, cost optimization, security, latency. Srinivasan, Biren, why don't you tell us how are enterprises rethinking their data strategy in today's multi-cloud and especially AI-driven era? What are the key trade-offs you consider when making these decisions? Srinivasan, why don't you go first?
See, the cloud versus on-prem hybrid debate is still happening. I'm not saying no, but it's far more nuanced, right? In a multi-cloud and AI-driven world, which we are currently now, the enterprises are prioritizing towards data sovereignty and security, which was not the case earlier. Security is paramount, right? This shift towards this hybrid and the multi-cloud strategies that allow for flexibility, it also addresses your regulatory and security concerns. Because there are some few trade-offs, right? For example, between sovereignty and scalability, right? Cloud offers you scalability, but regulatory requirements may mandate you to have data residency in place. For example, uh, RBI in India might say your data should be within India only. GDPR might say it's only within UK. That restrictions are there. Now even cloud providers are also able to match up to. Second part is about the cost optimization and security. While cloud can offer you immense cost savings, but ensuring robust cloud security in a multi-cloud environment is really complex and expensive. So that consolidation, it matters a lot. And next important factor is the latency and then centralized control, right? With your on-prem solution, latency is always very lower for critical applications. But in a cloud, you will have a more centralized and overall view of an monitoring and management activity, which is very good, right? And when you come into AI, the AI-driven cloud management, the AI workloads and the data location is a good combination to have a journey. AI workloads will give you massive data sets which you have to get churned up and get meaningful data out of it. But if data resides in a multi-cloud environment or on on-premises and multi-cloud, this creates a lot of latency and security challenges. It's like people in two planets try and talk to each other, things are not working for them, right? That is the analogy can quote here. And the very important factor is the vendor's audit complexity. In multi-cloud environment, the complexity vendor audits also goes a long way, because I have done vendor audits for close to 10 years now. But what I have done earlier, what I'm doing today is totally different, right? Because a vendor used to have a proper on data center, you will have a proper audit checklist which you have to do. Nowadays, it is different. You can sit at your place, vendor might have an on-prem solution hosted on a cloud, data with some other provider. It's very complex to tie those knots. And data classification, a company which is of 100 plus years old, 50 plus year old company, data lies everywhere. You never know where is important data. The data discovery, putting controls on those data is very, very important. And then encryption, I always say that data at source, data at motion, and data at rest, at all three stages you need to implement encryption and security controls. If it is only on data at flow, then your laptop is stolen, then you're at risk, right? So that also is an important control. And whatever activity you do, the last point, everything has to be recorded, trail maintained, and monitored through this SIM solutions, what we call it as security information management solutions. We have many products in the market which are more correlative in nature, which can combine your logs, give you meaningful output of data. Off late, we spend a lot of time on false positives because we used to do the controlled reviews manually. Nowadays, false positives are taken care of by the AI-based mechanism. We only focus on true positives where the actual issues are, actual threats are. So if we kind of manage all these things, right, between this cloud, on-prem, hybrid debate, the complexity is challenge. Again, data sovereignty and security is the overarching model. We have to follow all these controls. So that's my take on this, Deborah.
Excellent. Biren, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, you talked about trade-offs particularly, right? So I'll say that data security is of prime importance and it is a totally, completely non-negotiable. Okay, so at no point of time you'll be ready to negotiate or whether compromise on the data security. Now, having said that, the second and third factor which I'll say is that about latency and cost optimization. So whenever you have, you want to maybe optimize cost, you might have to compromise on the latency and maybe, or if you want to have a very good latency, then maybe you have to compromise on the cost. Basically, it will result into a high cost. So that is one thing which trade-offs parameters are there. And apart from that, now as Srinivasan mentioned about a hybrid structure or more hybrid data centers and hybrid cloud. So particularly what I've noticed is that now a lot of companies or other banks, because I'm particularly dealing with banks and FIs. So they are ready to use cloud, particularly for wherever there is a need for a scaling on a online basis, okay, on a real-time basis. So if there is a need to scale up or scale down the infrastructure, they will go for the cloud kind of a solution. But whenever there is a lot of data exchange, data download and data viewing has to be done, then basically banks will try to download the set of it locally on the on-prem, and then they will try to use that data to maybe generate different kind of reports. So that is a kind of I'll say model which I have noticed, and which actually because banks and everyone, I think all companies are cost conscious, so they will try to see that now I should get the maximum advantage of a cloud and also on-prem center. So that is what my viewpoint is.
I see. Well, that's the end of segment one. Let's move on to our next segment, embracing digital transformation. Biren, I want to ask you, what would you say are the biggest roadblocks organizations face when trying to align transformation initiatives with business priorities, and how can leadership bridge this gap?
Okay, so primarily digital transformation roadblocks are particularly, whereby you don't have the buy-in from the stakeholders. Okay, so if stakeholder buy-in is not there, or they are not sponsoring, they are not deeply involved, then that is one of the biggest problem with the organization now embarking on the digital transformation journey. So that is very important that now you need to have executive buy-in, leadership buy-in, and you need involvement also, not only just superficial involvement. That is one thing which is the biggest roadblock, or rather I'll say problems. Second is that now sometimes when you're embarking on the business and on the digital transformation, you might not have a very clear business goals. Okay, you might be saying that something vague kind of objectives are there, and that's when you don't know, when you're embarking on the journey, that what KPI you want to achieve. Okay, whether it is maybe customer satisfaction, then from what level to what level you want to go, right? That you should be clear that if your NPS is 7, you want to reach to 8, or whether you want to reach to 9. If that is not clear, then that is a kind of a problem, and that is a kind of a issues. Now roadblocks are there when there is a no management or leadership is not clear about the business goals. Another one is that now at times when you are embarking on the transformation journey, there will be several departments which will be there, right? And if those are working in the silos, then you will not be able to achieve the transformation, desired transformation. So lack of coherent maybe strategy working across all the departments, spanning across all department, is a sort of a problem, and that is, I'll say, 2 or 3 biggest roadblocks which organization face. And yes, obviously, employee engagement I already talked about, right? Employee engagement, employee involvement, cultural mind shift, all those are anyway there. Unless and until those are not done first, you will not be able to succeed in your digital transformation journey.
That's an interesting point to bring up about the culture, and that is something I want to pick Poonam's mind a bit on. How do you think organizations can cultivate that culture? One that embraces experimentation and agility and digital first thinking. In your opinion, Poonam, what do you think are some of the key enablers and barriers to fostering innovation at scale?
So that's a great question. Cultivating a culture of experimentation, agility, and digital first thinking is not a small feat, and very, very essential for the organizations aiming to thrive in today's fast-paced world. So, how can we really cultivate a culture that embraces experimentation, agility, and digital first thinking? So innovation really isn't about flashy ideas, new technologies. It's all about the mindset. And organization really need a culture where curiosity, collaboration, adaptability are baked into the everyday operations. So think of it like, tending a garden. Without consistent care, without nurturing creativity, collaboration, innovation simply won't bloom. And so it really has to permeate within levels, and the leader should be playing a very crucial role here. They should be walking the talk really, and they must champion digital information and model behaviors that encourage risk taking, learning from failures. And more and more that kind of culture gets into the organization, the people will be encouraged to take risks, and use more innovative and creative ideas, and obviously then learn from failure. So what are the key enablers really of the innovation? It's like we spoke about leadership buy-in. So leaders must not only support but actively drive innovation, and they should push the ideas across, and they should encourage people to think about more innovation ideas, maybe have more design thinking sessions, and also encourage more and more collaboration across the teams. So breaking down silos between departments fosters fresh ideas and creative problem solving. Like we have hackathons or any other competitions, cross functional brainstorming, that can be very powerful ways to spark the innovation. Also, the companies or the organizations must invest in training programs. So the more you upskill, the more the teams or really the employees would know about what is happening in the world, what is happening, or where how, what is the digital transformation we are looking at. And they are going to fuel more and more ideas. So you must encourage your employees to take certification in emerging technologies, AI, agentic AI, data analytics. So more and more new ideas the teams are, and new technologies the teams see and know about is more the innovative idea which they can apply to their current processes. So they would definitely know if there's something like an agentic AI. Fine, I can go ahead and use it for, say, customer service, or use it for a call center kind of an operations. So more and more new ideas, new workflows, new softwares which people come to know is how they would try and think of applying it in their daily processes. So that is how you would enable innovation in all the areas, in all processes, and in really the mindset. The other question you asked, Deborah, was what are the barriers to innovation? And of course, with every innovation, every new idea, there is a challenge. And the common barriers really include resistance to change. So there could be a lot of resistance to change from the employees, from the middle management. But that is where the leaders really have to play a big role. They have to have or encourage that kind of mindset which is adaptable, which is resilient, and which does not resist change as such. Uh, Also, the leaders or the organization really need to allocate time, funding for getting more and more into innovation or getting into the digital transformation. So you must prioritize efforts that align with strategic goals to maximize the impact. Also, the strategy should be very, very clear. Specific goals should be defined, whether it's improving your customer experience, streamlining operations. So you help focus efforts and build the momentum there. Also, as we spoke about resistance to change, there is a very important thing which we should not ignore at all, which is change management. So employees should be able to see how the innovation will benefit their processes and benefit them as well. So, these are some of the common challenges which the organization can actually, work on these, and the leader should drive personally the change throughout the organization. And lastly, how organizations can really lead innovation at scale. So the organizations should embrace an open failure culture where mistakes are really seen as learning opportunities rather than setbacks. So they must encourage employees to participate more and more. The participation should be incentivized, whether through rewards, recognition, and obviously there should be nothing which puts them at fault for any mistakes. This is very important to show employees that they and their ideas matter. So what is really the bottom line? So innovation really thrives when leadership sets the tone, walks the talk, employees feel empowered, and experimentation really becomes a second nature, and it really permeates through the mindset. So it's not about reacting to change, it's about leading the change. Thank you.
Biren, I'd like to come to you. How would you go about reskilling and upskilling your workforce to empower them to deal with the age of AI and automation and cloud adoption?
Yeah, sure. So, Deborah, Poonam has covered to a large extent, okay, about how to do reskilling and upskilling. But one thing which I'd like to just add upon on that is that now you need to sort of a personalized training for some of the employees, okay? So you cannot have always the generic training. You personalize to a different group of people, different set of people, different level of people, and try to have maybe a sort of adaptive training, that actually helps to maybe upskill the particular type of workforce. So that is one thing I like to mention. And obviously, with nowadays a lot of online learning tools which are available, uh, it gives you a sort of a, I'll say, a roadmap. Okay, that now if you want to maybe grow into say AWS, then it will tell you exactly now what all certification you need to do, what all learning journey you need to follow, right? So that is again another thing which actually helps. So that is there. And yeah, I mean, as Puna mentioned also, now having a innovation or innovation rewards, or maybe kind of organizing a hackathons. Okay, so that actually motivates team to scale up and skill up and try to come up to the curve. Yeah, so that is my.
Thank you so much, Biren. Srinivasan, I'd like to come to you now. Cultural inertia is, a bit of a roadblock in digital transformation. So I want to know, how do you think organizations can tackle employee resistance to AI adoption and new digital workflows? Especially, do you think the younger generation, Gen Z, can play a role in fostering a culture of innovation adoption?
Yeah, I've worked with both and new fintechs and legacy banks as well. So I've seen both sides. And what I see is that it's not a small roadblock, right? It's a significant challenge in current situation, especially in organizations with deeply entrenched legacy systems and processes. It's difficult to bring that change, but it is all top-down approach. But where you have to focus on is certain areas, right? The change management. Change doesn't happen overnight. There should be a structured change management process that is going to include proper communication, proper training, and support from your peers and people higher above, without which a change will never happen. It has to be a top-down approach and a cultural shift. Next is a pilot program. Don't do bang on approach. Don't do a broadcast based approach. Have a small scale pilot based projects where you can demonstrate the benefits to the organization and to your customers of using AI and digital workflows. If that succeeds, people will be ready to invest time, money, and also their efforts. Correct? So this is more important to do with small scale. What you've done in the recent past in a previous role is we developed a Gen AI model because as a company which was close to 50 plus years old, we had data at multiple places, which is of the employees, of the customers, or of various nature. We kind of did a correlation with Gen AI model, brought some structured data from unstructured data, which was a potential area of opportunity of business for us. We're able to scale from there on. So that is how we have to look into, right? So everybody uses AI, from you and me. If you are a user of YouTube, Facebook, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, you are a user of AI. It's very true. So it's just very good to do a pilot program. Next thing, as Biren mentioned, employee training and upskilling. It should be a role-based, skill-based training rather than a usual click next approach and you sign it off. No, that's not the game anymore. It's more of a checklist activity that should transition towards a more gamified role-based training activity to adapt new technologies. Right? Then people highlight what's in it for me. Right? That is a factor people ask always. What's in it for me? So show the employees how these changes can improve their daily work life. Right? Rather than doing a monotonous job of ABCD, if you do these changes, if you accommodate the changes, what is it for you? You to come to the office next day. Are you doing something different, something valuable? Are you contributing to the organization's cause? That is how they feel more connected, right? It's not just always about money; it's about the motivation factor as well. And you brought
True.
about the Gen Z factor, right? The Gen Z is it's a difficult piece to handle, but also interesting piece without which we cannot succeed in our next generation. Younger employees are digital natives. We are adapters. They are digital natives and can be a powerful advocate for a change. So they learn very quickly. They're very adaptive in nature, and they are very good advocates for change too. So their familiarity with technology and willingness to experiment is huge. So we take time to experiment and try to adapt, but their willingness to adapt and then with technology is very, very fast. So use that for an advantage, right? Rather than saying that they need to adapt to the organization culture and all those stuff that is still there, but this factor is very, very a good positives for them. Then the feedback loop, it should be both ways, right? Discussion feedback should go both ways from the receiver and also the observer. So only then your concerns gets addressed. It's not just I keep on drilling my team that is the areas you have to improve. We should ask them, right, what do you think the team is performing? How can you improve from there on? So that cultural change should come in from a lower level manager and a team leader to till the top level executives of the company. And you create champions. So that's what we did, right? We create champions in each of the department, each of the areas. When I have to imbibe the security culture organization, we created the security champions in each department. So security is not responsibility of a CISO or a security auditor, etc. It's everybody's responsibility. To bring that change, we improve championship culture within the organization, bring that enthusiasm, what is the takeaway for them, assign some mentors, assign some mentees. So that discussion goes from most of the team members too. So
That's
this
true. Mentoring,
changes,
it
yeah.
plays such an important role,
Yeah, I
right?
want to add something. Yeah, I mean, Srinivasan very well covered these points, but I just want to add one point is about you mentioned about play how Gen Z can play a role in terms of culture of innovation and adoption. So I'll say that if you have a kind of a reverse mentoring, okay, from Gen Z to senior employees, so that also sometimes helps to bring out the innovation because Gen Z, as Srinivasan told, that they are digital native and they have very good sense of now picking up new things very quickly. So if you allow them to now reverse mentor the senior employees or leaders, then definitely that will now bring out a different kind of innovation and creativity from the Gen Z, and that will overall help the company. Yeah, so that's what I wanted to add.
That is a good point. Gen Z, I mean, we unnecessarily judge them a lot, but they can offer a lot to our corporate culture as well.
Right.
I have faith in Gen Z, and my team is also largely Gen Z.
Oh, great.
All right, let's move on to the third and final segment, the role of AI in driving digital transformation. We live in a post DeepSeek world where once GPUs were costlier than diamonds. Now we are finding ways to uh, innovate and come up with more cost-effective ways to adopt AI. And I was wondering, Poonam, let me start with you. AI is often positioned as a catalyst for digital transformation. So, what would you say are the most tangible ways in which AI is streamlining digital transformation today? Would you say there are specific use cases where AI has delivered measurable efficiency, cost savings, or innovation? What have you noticed, Poonam?
Is a powerful catalyst for digital transformation. So, it ends up making processes smarter, more efficient, and faster as well. So, what are the most tangible ways AI is driving this change? And, how does AI do it really? So AI automates tasks, predicts trends, personalizing experience, giving a great end-to-end experience to the organization, to the customer, and they have personalized recommendations driving repeat sales and loyalties. So if we see in, many of our e-commerce, there's a lot of focus on customer experiences now. When you browse through various websites, you do get personalized recommendations on what you see, even what you speak. I mean, the devices are all listening to you, and they catch what you're looking at, or what you just spoke about, and they will give you personalized recommendations. So if you're looking for a phone, you will see the ads of phones coming up. If you're looking for clothes, you would see clothes, or a Myntra, or maybe a Amazon, or anything coming up. So that kind of drives your repeat sales, loyalty. And as far as use cases go, we've seen many use cases in retail. We've seen many use cases in manufacturing, supply chain, logistics, which has delivered a considerable efficiency. So, in especially in manufacturing, or retail, you can actually have a lot of predictive analytics where the seasonal trends are monitored, where when the demands are going to go up, when the demands are going to be low. So you can actually do your inventory planning. So, and supply chain, and you can monitor your logistics also. So all of this, the predictive analytics helps in planning the entire demand, supply, and supply chain, and the logistics, bringing down considerable efficiency in the entire sector. And this leads to the inventory planning as well, where you're not you don't have to put a lot of inventory when the demand is going to be low, and you can really control the cost there. Cybersecurity is one other area which AI plays a big role. It detects threats in real time, safeguards your data, builds the consumer trust, and there are new and new softwares, workflow coming in, which really helps you to breach, or maybe avoid any breaches, and and avoid any data hacks as well. So yes, as we know that AI does offer immense benefits, there are challenges to adoption. So resistance to change, data is another one of the main hurdles, which is very, very important. So it's really garbage in, garbage out. Unless you have data which is clean data, or data which makes sense, your
Usable
AI.
data, finding usable data is so difficult.
Yeah, data. See, data is really important because that is the base of what you're doing in AI. And if your data is not clean, if your data it doesn't make sense, you will actually get garbage out as well. So the organizations must have data management frameworks. They must continuously work on their data, and this can be a challenge because there are many legacy systems, and so and a legacy data as well. So to clean up is will obviously take considerable time and effort, but it has to be done. So AI is not about just enhancing digital transformation. It's redefining what's possible. So AI is really a proactive enabler and help organizations unlock efficiency, innovation, and growth, with along with a strategic vision and robust frameworks as well. So
I like what you said. AI is a proactive enabler. Biren, you want to add to that?
Yeah, sure. So I think from the real use case perspective, there are several, I think, examples nowadays we see in our day-to-day life. So one particularly, like I said, Netflix particularly. Okay. So Netflix, I mean, it is giving very personalized recommendation based on now whatever you watched or whatever you liked or disliked, right? So that is purely now customer engagement, so that there's a lesser of a churn and more of an engagement, right? Second, a use case I'll say that is more from the banking perspective. And I mean, if you've done any kind of a transaction which is not in line with your regular transaction, that then immediately gives you a shout out, right? And saying that now you've done transaction which is not in line with what you normally do or what your pattern is. So basically, fraud detection is one of the biggest now I'll say use case of now AI. Because of that, now a lot of fraud has been actually reduced by several banks. Not only I will say one or two banks. There are several banks where now they have benefited from this thing. So these are some of the areas where I feel very clear matlab, na, use case of AI, which has brought, I'll say, a drastic change in customer behavior as well as a customer engagement.
Srinivas, I want to come to you now. What would you say are some of the blind spots vis-a-vis the use of AI?
Blind spots are meant to be blind, but it can be unfolded with appropriate kind of governance and controls. That's it's a niche area. So there are quite a few concerns, Deborah, in terms of blind spots in AI, right? Whether company wants to find it or not, it's up to them. But there are a few. One is the bias and discrimination. When Poonam and Biren was mentioning about this unstructured data fed into AI, which is giving you some meaningless output, right? There we call that as data anonymization and data structuring, right? Get the data which is only which you want to get from customer, not everything and anything. Then restrict that to the proper use cases and then make it even more structured. So that is where we can use AI-based algorithms that can perpetuate and amplify the existing biases and which can lead to a lot of unfair and discriminatory outcomes. So if you see a lot of Gemini or a Copilot or ChatGPT, the same question can give you different answers. If I asked you, can you help me set up a bomb? It would not give me an answer. It would say no. But if I break the questions into multiple parts, I can still get my answer. Right? It's that human intelligence plus artificial intelligence. If it goes hand in hand, it can be a red chip or a blue chip. We know why the color matters a lot. Next is the privacy violations, right? With last of huge amount of data, which can raise privacy concerns. The AI systems with data localization, GDPR, as I mentioned, says only in UK and the DPDP in India, and then CCPA in California. Everybody are following the same framework, but with localized requirements regulations, which is an integrity which you have to understand. And third part is the lack of transparency and explainability, right? AI algorithms can be complex, it can be very opaque. It makes it difficult for us to understand how they arrive at certain decision making. ChatGPT can decide that I can kind of build up a tree using step A, B, C, and D, but Gemini would say I need to follow 5 step. Copilot would say I need to follow 3 step model. So which is the right thing for you? That's something which you need to decide from your side, right? The decision making should be from the human, not given to AI. Then you would lose your solidarity there. Then the last thing is security vulnerabilities, which is more important. So AI system themselves can be more very prone for attacks if it makes it even more open to the public. Regulatory, we discussed about all the regulations which are currently there. But how do you address these challenges, right? It's not just about saying problems. How do you address it? It's have a proper data governance model, data governance frameworks, reduce your biases, improve the quality of data. That can address a lot of data anonymization activities too. There are a lot of techniques available in the market with AI which can help you do privacy preserving, such as differential privacy, federated learning. These techniques can help you to ensure privacy is still maintained via AI too. Then there's an option, there's a concept called as explainable AI, or we call as XAI, right? So when you prioritize use of XAI, it can ensure your algorithms are more transparent and understandable without any loopholes in between. Then we always talk about security by design, privacy by design. We talk, but how many of us put that to practice? That is very important. So ensure security is by design, privacy is by design, and then have proper, appropriate ongoing monitoring and evaluation of your AI systems, whether it is breaching your security vulnerabilities, your privacy violations, and there is no bias. If you focus on these 3 priorities, your evaluation and security is always meant to ensure that you are staying abreast of all regulatory changes. So with these problems and these solutions, if you try to go hand in hand, this should help us ensure that our requirement of these bias, concerns, and blind spots can be avoided.
Before we close this podcast, let's get in some closing remarks from our speakers. Poonam, would you like to share with us your concluding remarks?
I just want to say, AI is a journey, and or a digital transformation is really a journey. It's not a one-off thing. It's something which needs to be constantly done, and for that, it's really an enabler which is going to get a lot of impacts to the organization, and it's going to change the way you work. So, you should be resilient, adaptable, and keep change at the forefront. and you're really, you will succeed, or the organization will succeed if you get all this in. And speed is of essence here. So, the faster you work, the more output or outcomes you get.
Okay,
Thanks.
Biren, your closing remarks, please.
Yeah, as Poonam said, digital transformation is actually a journey and not any immediate end goal. But at the same time, one needs to ensure that now it is having any digital transformation journey should have a fixed start date and fixed end date. Then only you will be able to succeed. Second is that now without a stakeholder buy-in or executive buy-in or employee engagement, you will not succeed at any point of time. Cultural mind shift is inevitable. That is a primary thing which leaders should focus on and then drive the digital transformation journey.
Perfect. Finally, Srinivasan, what would you like to say in conclusion?
So, tying back to our topic, we spoke about culture, AI, strategic goals. So, I see this as a triangle, right? Hopefully, it's not a Bermuda triangle. So, you get inside, you go, don't know where you're going into, right? So, with that mindset, culture and towards strategic goals is important. Strategic goals should be dynamic. They need to evolve as technology and markets evolve. And companies that are too rigid to adapt are always left behind. So, don't be rigid, be flexible, try to adapt. So, you're always in the journey. But stop a button. Never matter. Thank you.
Thank you once again for joining us. Poonam Masand, Director, Data Tech AI Consulting, Digital Transformation, GBS and Change Advisory, Genpact. Srinivasan Balraj, Vice President, National Head of Information Security, Audit and Compliance, Muthoot Fincorp Limited, and Biren Parekh, Director, CRISIL Limited. This was an excellent show. We hope you enjoyed being a part of this as much as I enjoyed hosting it. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Deborah. We'll see you in the next episode of W.Media Deep Dive. And that's a wrap. This episode of W.Media Deep Dive is brought to you by Chennai Cloud and Data Center Convention that will be held on May 22 at ITC Grand Chola. We will also be hosting our maiden edition of Chennai Interconnect World here. For more information or to share your feedback, write to us at india@w.media. Thanks for watching. I'm Deborah. We'll see you in the next episode of W Media Deep Dive. Bye for now.